Hello.
Hey there.
How are you?
Pleasure to meet you, Charlotte.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Please have a seat.
Thank you so much. Sorry, go ahead.
No, welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you. I actually saw you walking into work this afternoon.
Oh.
I was standing outside with one of the producers. It was really cute. She got a little starstruck.
Oh, I think people are still getting used to the fact that I just sort of walk in and out a lot.
It was very chill.
A lot more openly than some of the last guys.
Yeah, I saw you photobomb a tourist. That was cool.
Yeah, it was like I came in and the woman who was I took the picture with recognized me, but the one who was taking didn't. So I sort of smiled that she took the picture anyway, and I kept walking and I counted down on my head 3, 2, 1, and I heard, "Oh my God!" As the explanation happened. Anyway,
that's so cute.
You got to enjoy this job, and you got to stay connected to people, and that's why I'm so glad that you participated in this.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. So like as you know, I'm a student, and I'm here to chat about it. And what my hope really for the next 10 minutes is that I can go back to Halifax next week, and I can tell the amazing students I work with that they are a priority to our Prime Minister and that they're a priority to the federal government, because I think the truth is that for the last 30 years, students haven't been a priority in Canada, and we see that in the 90s, funding for post-secondary education was slashed, tuition fees have been skyrocketing, so now the majority of students are working and taking out loans. Yeah, personally, I work 5 jobs right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
I'm on a scholarship, so I have to maintain a really high GPA.
Wow.
I also still have student debt, and I also think that I've been incredibly privileged compared to other students. So what I really want to know is, what are you going to do to ensure that education is a right for all Canadians and not just a privilege for those who can afford it?
Okay. First of all, recognizing that access to quality post-secondary education is essential for the well-being of our society, for as many people as possible. If we're going to be competitive in an increasingly globalized world with just 35 million people, we have to make sure that we're giving all the tools possible. That means university, but also college, skills, trades, and like all the package of education that we can give to as many people as possible. That's what we need to do. So recognizing that, where are the biggest barriers to accessing post-secondary education? Obviously funding, financial issues are a really big one. That's why we're actually shifting from the current system, which is based around tax credits, towards much more grants. So instead of claiming it at the end of getting money back at the end of the year, or your parents getting money back at the end of the year, give the money upfront on an ongoing basis to students in low and middle class income ranges to be able to succeed through it. Secondly, looking at debt. Making sure that repayment of student debt is tied to income, so that you don't have to worry about being overly burdened with student debts until you're making the kind of income that means you can actually afford to start paying back your student debts. Those kinds of things to remove from far too many young people that impossible choice of, okay, do I go into the workforce now at a lower rate, or do I take on more debt to get more education, to maybe get a better job, but maybe just carry more debt? Listening to students, hearing that is what we're really trying to focus on turning around.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up youth unemployment, because that's actually another big concern of mine. And well, as you said, student debts are really high, obscenely high right now. And what we're finding is that students burdened with those debts are graduating and they can't find work in their field. So many of my friends have graduated and they can't find work in their field, so they're taking on low-paying, precarious work just to make ends meet. And those students, then can't afford to start a family or buy a house or get a small business loan. So what are you doing to ensure that my generation can have access to the same opportunity as yours, which is simply to graduate and find meaningful work and start a family?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, making sure that we're recognizing the scarring effect, that if it takes longer for a young person out of university to find work in a good job or in a career path, that delays so much else in terms of starting a family, buying a home, contributing fully to society, and that's something that you can never get back. So we need to be as efficient as possible as making sure that young people do get a path towards meaningful employment. Part of that is going to be doing a better job of co-op programs, responsible internships, not the unpaid internships that get overly abused.
Brutal.
Well, because those end up being unfair, because families who can afford to support a child or a young person while they do an unpaid internship at a law firm or somewhere else are having an advantage that lower income or medium income families don't have. So we need to level the playing field on that.
Absolutely. Do you plan to end exploitative and unpaid internships?
My first meeting on that was about 3 or 4 years ago, where we talked about it from a position of opposition, and it's certainly something we're looking at right now. And when I became Prime Minister, I kept 2 portfolios for myself as a minister. One is intergovernmental affairs, because we need to make sure that the government is actually collaborating with other levels of government. But the other one is youth. I'm still the Minister for Youth in this government, because how we prepare our young people, protect them, empower them, and give them the tools to succeed is not just how we build a strong economy for the future.
I'm sorry.
It's how we build a strong society.
I'm just going to jump in there, and I appreciate that. But I'm so glad that you recognize how dangerous unpaid internships are. But I'm concerned that I know so many people at my school. My school has a huge unpaid internship program that are paying thousands of dollars a year to do work for free, and work that should be entry-level salary positions. And those students are struggling. Like, I had a conversation and someone was like, I need to buy professional clothes for my internship and I can't afford it because I don't have any money. I don't have money for groceries. So, like, what's happening? What does that look like for them right now?
Well, I mean, one of the situations we're in is that universities are underfunded, so they're looking at ways of trying to get by and still provide high quality education to people with a ever increasing level of challenges and burdens. And what we need is a federal government that's actually going to step up and say, okay, we need to invest in our future. We have to stop with this short term, okay, what am I going to get back in time for the next electoral cycle? And instead say, well, what are we going to build for the next generation? And that's where we need to work with universities to make sure that young people have both the work opportunities, but the capacity to afford to live and to study and to move forward without crippling debts in a way that is a level playing field for everyone.
Absolutely. So another question I have for you is that, well, to start off, I'm really jazzed that the Liberal Party has taken away the 2% funding cap on the PSSSP. I think that's awesome. However, as you may know, it's been estimated that an additional $418 million is required to adequately fund post-secondary education for all Métis, Inuit, and First Nations students. I'm wondering if your party plans to honor its commitments to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, yes, by providing education to those students?
Yes, it is beyond past time to build a renewed relationship based on respect, partnership, collaboration for all who share this land. And we as a government, we as a country have marginalized First Peoples, Indigenous peoples for far too long. We need to start making sure that we get parity in terms of education. We need to make sure that the opportunities available to Indigenous Canadians are there with people of all across the country.
So you will be providing post-secondary education to Indigenous learners at no cost to all Indigenous learners.
We are increasing. We are working with provinces. I've tasked our Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs to close the gap, basically. And is it going to happen in this very first budget? We're working towards it. Is it going to happen soon? It has to.
It does have to. It
has to. Just to be the country of rights and justice that we like to think of ourselves as, but also to have the kind of future that we need to have when the highest proportion of young people in this country live in Indigenous communities. That's just not about the future of Indigenous communities. It's about the future of our country, to make sure that we're giving paths to success.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm anxious to see the government work on it quickly, because I've chatted with Indigenous news. I was actually chatting with an Indigenous woman today who said, the reason I didn't attend post-secondary education is that I can't afford that debt. And that's like, that's bullshit. Like, that education is her treaty right. It's her treaty right, and she's not accessing it. And I know that things take time, but also there's so many students, in however long this takes, in the next 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, that are not going to access education that is their treaty right because they can't take on that debt.
No, we're going to work on this quickly. I've sat down with Indigenous leadership across the country, with young Indigenous activists, with a huge range of people. We are serious about getting this done. We are serious about getting it done right, because it's time. It's 2016.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for your passion, for your advocacy, for sharing. One of the most important things that I think for this job is, if I can't keep connected with people who are reminding me of what's important, then I'm not going to be as good at serving them as I need to be.
Well, thank you for meeting with me.